For coming. Honorable Melissa Popon-Scarrett, Minister for Housing and Urban Development. Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre and other members of Cabinet. Dr. Kira Paul, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing. Mr. Emil Lancelot, the PS in the Ministry of Public Works. Other Permanent Secretaries. Dr. Gennaro Joseph, Project Manager, Housing Recovery Project. Dr. Germaine Japierre, Project Manager, Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Other government officials, the media, members of the public tuned in, good morning. Thank you for joining us for the second in our press conferences aimed at keeping the Dominican public updated on various government projects, activities, and programs. This morning, we will begin with remarks from Honorable Melissa Popon-Scarrett, the Minister for Housing.
Let me recognize the presence of our Dr. Irvin McIntyre, Honorable. Other members of Cabinet here today, Dr. Kira Paul, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing, Mr. Emil Lancelot, the PS in the Ministry of Public Works. Other Permanent Secretaries, Dr. Gennaro Joseph, is our Project Manager at the Housing Recovery Project. Dr. Germaine Japierre, the Project Manager at Caribbean Digital Transformation Projects. Other government officials, the media, a pleasant good morning to all of you. I want to thank you for joining us today as we update you on one of the most critical investments shaping the well-being of our nation, and that is housing. The Housing Recovery Project in particular is a collaboration, as we know, with the World Bank. And it was designed to provide resilient housing to our citizens after the passing of Hurricane Maria. And we are not just building homes, but we are empowering families. These hurricane-resilient homes have made dreams come true. But what we are most proud of is the fact that we are taking people out of poverty for housing. From those who were living in dilapidated homes to now sleeping comfortably in a hurricane-resilient home. These homes have shatterproof windows and concrete roofs, and it is an asset which is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Under the Housing Recovery Project, we plan to build 420 homes. So far out of that, we have built 309 homes at an estimated value of about $40 million US. If you remember clearly, in 2018, the Prime Minister announced that this government would build 5,000 homes by 2030. And just as a way to update you as where we are in attaining this goal, we have surpassed the halfway mark, both in target and time frame. And so I'm proud to say that we are well on our way to becoming the first climate resilient country, of course, with housing leading at the forefront. This endeavor stands as a testament to the government's unwavering commitment to improving the living conditions and building resilience in our housing sector. No one can contest the fact that housing was a major need in our country. There were several families squatting on state lands. Lack of access to modern toilets was also very prevalent across Dominica. And so to address these issues, the Prime Minister launched a very ambitious program, the Housing Revolution, implementing historic programs to alleviate poverty, to provide secure, quality housing to diverse populations, way before Hurricane Maria hit us in 2017. But in 2017, when Hurricane Maria devastated Dominica, damaging 90% of 31,352 registered houses, and this was a little bit over 5,000 homes which were completely destroyed. Housing accounted to 38% of total damage, amounting to $354 million. And so our reconstruction needs, based on the World Bank post-disaster needs assessment, were estimated at about $520 million. The Prime Minister went to negotiate with the World Bank to establish this project, which we are eternally happy for this partnership. We have provided not only the financial means, but also the technical expertise to drive this project forward efficiently and effectively. And in one area that we noticed that we were significantly lacking in the workforce, specifically after Hurricane Maria, when we had to rebuild, were skilled tradesmen in the construction sector. You know, we had quite a bit of individuals who considered themselves to be builders, but they weren't necessarily contractors. And so this HRP project acted as its own technical school, allowing us to build capacity within the construction sector. The HRP and all other housing initiatives has provided employment to hundreds across within the construction sector, offering people an opportunity to learn on the job and to enhance their skills. They were also trained in resilient building codes, which they can now apply to their own contracting businesses. And what we did is that we intentionally selected contractors and tradesmen within the communities where the homes were being built to ensure that the monies would keep circulating within the communities and stay within the families. And so everything was strictly local, from our carpenters to our plumbers, electricians, painters, tilers. Everything was local within these communities. And so the World Bank has been great partners with this on this project. I take this moment to acknowledge the vital contributions of the World Bank, who have shared in our vision to support us in every step of the way. The World Bank provided 107 million EC for the Housing Recovery Project, which is now set to conclude this year. When I assumed office at the end of December 2022, the Housing Recovery Project had already made strides, but significant challenges remained. At the time, out of the 420 homes to be constructed, 69 homes had been handed over to families across the nation. Given the extensive challenges with land tenure, we had construction supervision issues, we had issues with the beneficiaries as well as they were interfering with the construction process, contractor issues, also long construction timelines, poor performing contractors as well. And this actually worsened the beneficiaries' vulnerability. And so we had to completely revamp the whole project and take upon a new government approach. We gave support to regularize squatter status on state lands, as many individuals were on state lands, but in order for them to qualify for this project, they would have had to be able to show a title. So we made a lot of headway in that department. Also, some of the beneficiaries, their legal fees were paid by this government, again, to ensure and safeguard that their qualifying status of this program will remain. And so throughout, we made a number of interventions in order to continue the construction for the qualifying beneficiaries within the timeline stipulated. While progress was slow in the beginning, it was tangible. This journey was a learning process for all of us, as well as the World Bank, because this was the first of its type that the World Bank had implemented anywhere. And so today we can proudly report progress. A total of 376 contracts have been signed. From the initial 89 home completion, we are now at 358. And as we speak, there are 76 homes currently under construction. And so the facts speak for itself. This represents a stark improvement compared to where we were a few years ago. Now, I know this press conference was to solely speak about the Housing Recovery Project, but before I leave this microphone, I just wanted to simply add the numerous housing interventions across the country, specifically those under the MMC program. We currently have 10 construction sites, housing sites under construction, starting from the north of the island, from Capuchin to Kashako, in other words. In the north of the island, we have 4 housing sites in the Woodfordale area, Paybush, Vickers, and Penville. And coming down to the west coast, we have the Kinfield East, and then we have Lily Valley, Trafalgar, Eggleston, which was the latest project that we added. And then to the south, we have Point Michel and Scott's Head and Granby, which has a massive amount of homes in the 90s, about 94, 96. So this would bring us to about 245 additional homes under the MMC project. And also, we've been able to resolve the long-standing issue in Lily Valley Apartments. We have possession of the keys, and we're just making some light repairs so that we're able to give out those homes within the next 2 months, Dr. Mark, I believe. Also, the resettlement of Petit Soufriere, Saint-Sauveur is on track. The funding we have secured already, and we are simply addressing the issue on planning and the site preparation. You will also see the commencement of the phase location of Campbell to their new location in Warner. The subdivision has been done, and the access road has already been established. Throughout this year, as you know, the Prime Minister announced the 10 million, which was given to us by the People's Republic of China, and for that we are eternally grateful for this, as we're able to continue our home renovation and sanitation program. So this year we will engage, the ministry will engage in a number of initiatives, literally in every single constituency across Dominica, from building new home constructions on the private property of the owners, as well as repairs to private homes, and also the construction of modern restrooms. As I round up, the HRP, I would like to say, it was not possible without the collective efforts of all the stakeholders. And so I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to the staff of the PIU, the CREED, other partner ministries and the agencies, the technicians across the public service, our local government authorities, contractors who have dedicated their skills and the energy to this project, and to the families and the communities who have been very understanding and patient with us throughout this project. Your efforts and your contributions are deeply appreciated and will remain integral, and it remain integral to the success of this flagship initiative. Dr. Joseph will delve further into the specific milestones and provide you with the insight into the critical challenges and our efforts that we have made to address them, bringing us to where we are today. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks to Mrs. Popon-Scarrett, the Minister for Housing and Urban Development, for her overview of the Housing Recovery Project, as well as other initiatives ongoing in the housing sector. As she indicated, we will now hear from Dr. Jinara Joseph, who is the Project Manager for the Housing Recovery Project.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Scarrett, for your very comprehensive briefing on the Dominica Housing Recovery Project. Protocol having been established, I will just launch straight into my delivery on this project. Now, we all know that this is a very important project, and it has been the subject of much scrutiny, controversy, and misconceptions during its implementation lifetime. Therefore, I hope that this press conference can provide greater insight into the inner workings of the HRP and highlight the significant accomplishments of the project, of which there are many. As an engineer and project manager, as a Dominican, the project is very close to my heart. I am proud of what the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, and by extension, the Government of Dominica, has been able to achieve through the Dominica Housing Recovery Project. You have already heard that this is a combination of grant and loan funds. So the project received loan funds totaling USD 40 million from the World Bank. The financing agreement between the Government of Dominica and the World Bank, which governs the implementation of the project, became effective in August 2018. The Government of Dominica provided $10 million in additional funding for a loan. Therefore, afterwards, the implementation of the project commenced, and the project has 4 components. The first one being the support for housing recovery systems and capacity building. This includes the support for the physical planning division through the establishment of technical assistance centers and the development of a management information system to support the implementation of the housing recovery project. The second component, which many of us are very familiar with, is the support for reconstruction of houses. The third component is the project management and coordination, which governs the operations of the project implementation unit. And the fourth component is the contingent emergency response component, which gives the government latitude to divert project funds to specific national emergencies. As with projects of this nature, where the requirements of the financing agreement are rigorous, the Housing Recovery Project had its latent phase in which the documents, procedures, and frameworks which govern the execution of the project were developed. And in 2021, we saw the construction of the first set of Housing Recovery Project homes. What the Housing Recovery Project has sought to do has been ambitious, novel, and revolutionary in the context of resilient housing reconstruction in a small island developing state. Indeed, the HRP has served as a template for other resilient housing construction projects throughout the world. When the project was conceptualized, the target was to construct 1,700 much smaller starter homes with an individual ceiling of Eastern Caribbean dollar 50,000. To ensure that the beneficiaries of the project were able to receive larger, resilient, reinforced concrete homes, the government opted to increase the individual beneficiary grant ceiling to Eastern Caribbean dollar 125,000. This reduced the total number of houses that could be constructed under the project to 640. The COVID-19 pandemic triggered two contingent emergency response components early in the project's implementation lifetime. This required diversion of the funds from the project to provide livelihood support during the pandemic, further reducing the housing construction objectives to 420. From its inception, this project has adopted a beneficiary-driven approach to home construction, and this has been with its challenges. This means that the HRP has always endeavored to involve the beneficiaries in every step of the homeowner journey. Homes are not simply built and handed over to the beneficiaries. With technical guidance from the PIU and consideration for the spatial constraints of their land, beneficiaries are allowed to select from up to 5 model houses, A to E. These are the types that we have on the HRP. And there's also a type F for spatially constrained sites. Correspondingly, 14 foundation configurations are applied depending on the model type and the site topography. The signatories to the contract for the construction of a home are the beneficiary and contractor. So you can see that the beneficiary is very involved in the construction process. They are one of the signatories to this contract. The beneficiary signs off on every payment certificate at the completed stages of construction. So the beneficiaries get to influence so much of the construction outcome. They even choose the color of their homes and the aesthetic features that make each HRP house an individual home, as you will see from the photos of the completed HRP homes. To date, the project has executed the signing of 376 construction contracts, and we have practical completion achieved on 309 houses. We have currently, Minister mentioned 358 homes mobilized, but we have increased this to 365. So this is a very dynamic project in which the numbers are continuously changing. The payments to constructors are made at 5 stages of construction. That is the mobilization stage, the ground floor stage, roof stage, and practical completion. And we, of course, have a 3-month defect liability period in which any defects that become apparent during the beneficiary's initial occupancy of the house are reported to the contractors, and they have to make good on those defects. HRP homes are being constructed all over Dominica, and the largest single concentration of home construction is in the Kalinago territory, where over 30% of HRP homes are being constructed. And this is for the simple reason that the housing stock of our indigenous people was most significantly affected by Hurricane Maria. The project considers factors such as the socioeconomic vulnerability, disabilities, single-parent households, the advanced age of beneficiaries, whether they have non-communicable diseases, employment status, whether the household is female-led. All of these are considered when we prioritize beneficiaries. However, there are important factors that we must also consider. For example, there is a fundamental requirement that the land on which the house is to be built must not be situated in what the project defines as a hazardous area. And that is an area where there is a significant risk of landslide, flooding, or other environmental hazard. Furthermore, beneficiaries who qualify for the project have had a home that was not just damaged, but destroyed by Hurricane Maria. And this is one of the criteria that we sometimes struggle with explaining to beneficiaries. So beneficiaries are not qualified just because their homes were damaged, but it has to be a complete destruction of the home by the hurricane. The previous home that they would have occupied would have to be less than or equal to 500 square feet. So we are building a small home, so we expect that the beneficiaries who qualify for these homes would have occupied a small home. And so the project provides replacement homes of up to 550 square feet. Applicants to the project would not qualify if they received previous housing support from the government exceeding Eastern Caribbean $10,000. And another very important criteria of the Housing Recovery Project is that the beneficiary must be able to demonstrate that they have a legal right to occupy the land. So once we've gotten all of these criteria covered for the beneficiaries, then we can move on to the construction of the home. Of course, after we have done our construction procurement process. The HRP is intended to contribute to Dominica's climate resilience and recovery plan target to ensure that 90% of the housing stock is built to resilient standard, and this is part of the government's broader pledge to develop Dominica as the world's first climate resilient country. Therefore, there are some very important technical attributes of the Housing Recovery Project, and this primarily, the homes are reinforced concrete. They either have load-bearing walls or a moment frame construction as part of their structural system. They are, of course, single-story homes because they are intended to be a starter home with a concrete roof which can allow for the homeowner to expand upwards or outwards. The foundation consists of pad footings, tie beams, and strip footings where appropriate. Now, each of these homes would have been subjected to the physical planning application process. Therefore, when considering expansion, we urge the homeowners to engage qualified professionals and to seek planning approval for their plans for future expansion. This is important to ensure that the resilience of the home is not compromised by poor quality future construction. The homes are fitted with hurricane shutters, which add additional hurricane protection, and we incorporate accessibility features such as ramps for occupants with mobility challenges. I will give you a bit of detail on our contractors and the construction process. The time for construction of an HRP home is 4 months. There was a time when it was much longer than this, but we have since been able to tighten up our construction process through filtering our contractors, so we are using the best of our cohort of contractors, and so by and large, we have reduced the construction time to approximately 4 months, with an additional 3-month defectless liability period. Each house is tendered competitively to at least 3 contractors, and the beneficiary does have a say in the contractors that are selected for this construction. The HRP currently employs a cohort of 25 local contractors. On average, each contractor employs 5 laborers. So therefore, we can say that over 300 construction workers have been employed on HRP construction sites. This does not include the plumbers, electricians, and joiners who have been subcontracted by our contractors. At the start of the project, we had 128 contractors registered with the HRP. However, less than 60 submitted bids for the construction of HRP homes. And since we have a construction filtering process by which we only use contractors who have demonstrated an ability to follow the plans and to maintain our quality standards, this is why we have arrived at 25 contractors currently. The PIU team continues to review the performance and rate our contractors. So even in future, if we find that our contractors are slipping, we might even have less contractors employed on the project. But the idea, as Minister said, is that the HRP not only provides homes, but it serves as a training ground for our contractors. They are learning valuable skills in resilient construction, how to manage contracts, and how to manage their cash flows. So we have now arrived at a cohort of contractors that we can trust to deliver good quality homes within the stipulated construction time frame for the HRP. Now, the project has faced a number of operational challenges. and these have been influenced by both local and external factors. Some of the construction-related challenges have been flow construction, inexperienced contractors who have delivered unsatisfactory construction quality, and of course, as many of you who have had to build know, the skyrocketing costs of construction materials. Material shortages and the shortage of construction labor have also been challenges that we have had to deal with on the Housing Recovery Project. Like every construction project, the HRP has not been insulated from the effects of the war in Ukraine and its impact on the supply chain. The increasing cost of steel and other construction materials have affected this project significantly in terms of overall construction costs for the current models. Our island terrain, we know that Dominica is beautiful, but the terrain is inherently difficult. And so many of our sites have had difficult access conditions. So the government has responded to this challenge by making available up to 10,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars in what we consider to be a difficult site, difficult access fund for the contractors to cover the additional costs incurred by such sites. And to date, we have paid difficult access on 33 sites amounting to 279,000 EC dollars. And that is on top of the grant that has been afforded to the beneficiaries for the construction of the HRP home. Now, the current grant stands at 150,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars. It has been increased from first 125,000 and then to 140, and this is simply to account for the fact that the construction sector is dynamic, prices are changing, and we have tried to keep step with the changing prices and the realities of construction so that our contractors are not placed at a disadvantage. We have taken many decisive actions to improve the performance of the Housing Recovery Project, including termination of the design and supervision firm in August 2023. And we have replaced the services of this firm with a cohort of local professionals whom we refer to as our alternative design and supervision team. These construction professionals have been led by our project engineer, Julian Baptist, and they have delivered much improved construction supervision. So we have been able to take HRP construction supervision fully local. As the Minister said, it's strictly local with the HRP. Now, poor construction practice of a minority of our contractors has led to the termination of 27 housing contracts. And this has meant that we have incurred additional costs in retendering these contracts and mobilizing new contractors. So this has further affected the totals of the houses that we are able to construct, because something that was not factored into the project design, it was considered a grant to the beneficiary. We have had to respond to the fact that some of our contractors have not performed accordingly, and we have had to retender at increased costs to the project. Another challenge that the project has faced is the informal landholding status of many of our applicants. The HRP, with the significant intervention of the legal arm of the government, has been able to resolve 176 land tenure status cases. So almost 60% of our beneficiaries had informal land tenure. I assure you that HRP homes belong to the beneficiary. Where there has been a clear and achievable path to formalizing land ownership, the Ministry of Housing has spared no effort in assisting beneficiaries to obtain their land title. We have unfortunately had to disqualify some 22 beneficiaries because of the complexity of their land tenure cases or their failure to engage with the land registration process after repeat notices from the PIU. We have had to disqualify beneficiaries in instances where the land is interstate property or where there has been family disputes over land. These are matters that we simply cannot resolve within the project's time frame. The project ends on the 30th of June, 2025. And we want you, the listening public, to remember the success stories of the Housing Recovery Project and the profound impact that the project has had on the lives of so many of our fellow Dominicans. We want you to remember that the project is an example of the government's commitment to providing resilient housing. We want you to remember that we have so far completed 309 homes, and we are on target to complete 376. We want you to remember that 176 Dominicans now have first title, securing the ownership of their properties for generations to come. We want you to remember that over 100 of our indigenous families now live in resilient homes. A total of approximately 850 Dominicans have been rehoused under the HRP. We want you to know that the government has ensured that the model plans are not copyright restricted, and the HRP model plans are available to all Dominicans who request them. We want you to remember that 25 local contractors have developed their construction management skills and built up their construction portfolios because of this project. We want you to remember that this project tells an important story of our nation's determination to rebuild better from the devastation of Hurricane Maria. Thank you.
Well, thanks to Dr. Joseph for her comprehensive report. We're happy for that level of detail as it helps us to meet our objectives, to keep the public educated and informed about our projects which are ongoing to the benefit of the Dominican people. We will have an opportunity to ask any further follow-up questions of the representatives of the Ministry of Housing. However, at this point, we move on to Dr. Jermaine Jean-Pierre, who is the project manager for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project.
Good morning. Honorable Ministers, Permanent Secretaries, P.S. Lancelot, my Permanent Secretary, CAPSEC. Today I'm just going to give a brief presentation on the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. And so the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project is being implemented through a loan from the World Bank. The government of Dominica would have taken that loan to the sum of $28 million US dollars, or EC $75 million to implement the digital transformation project. Along with Dominica, the project is being implemented in 3 other islands, namely St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And there are activities or components to the project that all 4 islands are being implemented, that are being implemented by all 4 islands, and those activities are supervised and monitored by the OECS. So why did we sign on to the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project? So we wanted to create the foundation to enable digitalization, not just for government, but for the Commonwealth of Dominica as a whole. And we also wanted to improve access and adoption of digital services. We wanted to ensure that we have the digital skills needed. As you're aware, we are looking at digital economy, and so we wanted to ensure that we have not just access, but as well as the skills needed for anyone to be able to function within the digital economy. And we also want to improve on innovation, and we also want to improve on access to investment. We want to promote investment within the digital economy. The project is being implemented within 3 components. And so I will share with you some of the activities that we're doing under each of the components of the digital transformation project. So the first component is digital enabling environment. And when we speak of the digital enabling environment, what we're doing is creating the environment so that the activities that are being implemented can be done in what we call a secure manner. And for that, we would have done, one of the activities that we have done to date is to review the policies, legislation, and regulations necessary for the various activities that we're implementing. So we would have engaged a firm, a legal firm, to the sum of over $200 US to review what is already existing. Sorry, 200,000 US dollars. And so the firm would have reviewed the existing legislation and make updates when necessary. And where there is no legislation, they would have drafted those. And we have gone through a process of speaking with all of the stakeholders, the ministries, agencies that are responsible or that are part of the implementation of whichever activity that we're doing. And our next step now is the review by the Attorney General's Chamber, as well as public consultation before we take those legislation to Parliament. And so we are pretty much advanced in that activity. We're in the process of building out a CERT, a Computer Emergency Response Team, and that agency will be responsible for dealing with all cybersecurity matters under this project, or the activities being implemented under this project. And so while we are saying to go online, while we are saying that you can transact business online, while we are saying it's okay to shop online, we want to ensure that there is an agency in place that for whatever reason or whatever situation that may arise, that you feel comfortable in knowing that there is somebody or an agency that you can go to for redress. And that's what the CERT will do. In our next component, digital government infrastructure platforms and services, and we have been focusing on specific sector activities. And one of them we have looked at is the design and development of an automated border control e-gate. And what the e-gate will do is to allow for easier and faster, hassle-free and smoother process of entry and exit from Dominica. The request for proposal is out, and so if you visit our website, cardtp.gov.dm, you can actually see the requirements and submit a proposal if you are so interested. We are also looking at the integration of systems and services to ensure the automatic flow of information and data across government. And say, for instance, you wish to apply for a passport. We know the requirement for applying for a passport is you must have a birth certificate. So with the integration that we're creating between systems, you do not necessarily need to go to the civil registry to request a passport, because the passport office now has access to that information and can do their own verification. So the intent really is to create or to allow you to be able to access services more efficiently without going through the hassle of going to different ministries or agency just to get the required documents. All of the systems will be able to speak to each other, and so you go to one agency and you can get all of the requested or required information that you so need. We're also in the process of developing a new website for Discover Dominica. So by now you can tell that I'm speaking to the tourism sector, because those are some of the activities that we're working on under the tourism sector. So we're creating a new website for Discover Dominica Authority. And the key feature of that website is that all of our hotels, guest houses will be listed on that site. And so an individual wishing to book a hotel or a guest house, you could go to one place to do that. Pretty much like a time, what you call it? Yeah, one of these booking agencies that you would have gone to online in the US, and we're bringing it right here for you in Dominica with the new Discover Dominica website. So for the health sector, and this is my favorite activity, on July 23rd, 2024, the government would have signed a contract with ACS Infotech Private Limited and Manoram Info Solutions Private Limited for the design, supply, and installation of a health management and information system for the health sector in Dominica. This system will be implemented in 3 hospitals and 47 health centers. The the cost of the implementation of this system is $8.5 million. Every aspect of the health sector will be digitized. So from patient administration to clinical management to accounting and billing to administration to morgue management, every single aspect will be digitized. So imagine as a patient, you go to the St. Joseph Health Center for care, and you're being referred to the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. By the time you get to the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, the doctor would have had all of your information, and what would be remaining is providing you with the care that you need. So they no longer need to ask the questions that would have been asked at the St. Joseph Health Center with this new system. And we can even go as far as saying that we speak of telemedicine. So a doctor from outside of Dominica wants to consult on your case. Access can be provided to that doctor for that information to be able to provide you with the care that is needed. So so far we have met with all of the doctors, nurses, staff of the primary health care, hospitals, to sensitize them on the implementation of the system. We have gotten their feedback, and we have actually created all of the system's requirement documents for the system, and our next step is to begin the whole customization of the system to tell the vendors exactly what we want and how we want it, and then to go into what we call production. And then, of course, before we get into production, we will be coming to the public on this system to hear from them. So please do listen out and look out for us when we give the notice that we'll be visiting your community to speak more to you about the health management and information system. E-services. And so we have made it easier to access services from government. Under the project, we have implemented our e-services portal. That is our web and mobile portal. It can be found at eservices.gov.dm, and it's what we call the Government of Dominica Premier Digital Services platform, designed to bring the public service directly to your fingertips. There are over 75 services on the platform which you can apply. And the cool thing about the e-services platform is you can actually apply for a service and pay for it at the same time. So, in the past, you'd have gone to the ministry, apply, and then come back to the e-payment portal and pay. So we have solved that. You go to the e-services portal, you complete your form for your birth certificate, and you pay for it at the same time. We're now working to actually deliver the birth certificate to you. Right now, you have to go to the registry and collect it. And before the end of the project, life of the project, you will receive your birth certificate. Your birth certificate will be delivered directly to you. So as I said, there are 75 services that you can already apply for online on the e-services portal. We have also been working on our digital signatures and document management system. This activity is being implemented at US $1.9 million. The firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young are the implementing firms. And we are pretty much advanced with that. We have seen what the document management system will look like. We have seen what our e-cabinet system will look like. And now we're just integrating the digital signature in there. So, Minister McIntyre, when you're overseas, you could actually sign a document digitally. Our last component, digital skills and technology adoption. And this is critical to us because, as I mentioned earlier, we would say we want you to go online. We want you to be able to conduct business online. but you need to have the skills to do that. You need to be able to understand, when you go on the computer, what are you seeing in front of you? And so under this component, we have been offering digital literacy skills. But to do so, we would have built or established 16 innovation hubs right across Dominica. And I will tell you where they are so that you can go to those hubs